tell you a story this evening. It's called Paddy Francie. And now it so happened that Paddy Francie had about 5 acres in a wee farm. And he had a half acre, it was a good half acre now, and he planted out in corn. And he landed down this evening to cut it. Well, the first thing that he done was he went in to the corner of the field and he started with the scythe. And he started to take a good swathe round the back of the ditch with the scythe. And he was getting on not too bad, he was about halfway round the field. And here, lo and behold, didn't he hear the gate rattle? And it was his neighbour Mick the Fiddler. Now Mick was one of these right handy kind of boys, you know. He was a right good neighbour. And he was always like to help people out, so he did. So Mick started in to gather the corn and stuck it and stack it behind him. But Mick was a right good worker and he was coming up in behind Paddy Francie, and you know he was coming too near hand to the scythe. And Paddy says, God, Mick, he says, I'm well glad to see you, but he says, would there be any chance, he says, you might stay back a bit, for he says, I'm going to take the hand clean off you. Ah, well, could he get back for a while, but he kept coming up, and curse it happened, lo and behold, sooner or later he did. He swung round and here, didn't he, cut poor old Mick's hand straight off him, just above the wrist. Oh, good God, he stopped. He stopped the whole handling, and he jumped the march ditch and he run across, and he got into the wee miner van and he looked about the back of the dairy and he got a fertiliser bag and he threw it in behind him, and he came down round in the van and he got backed into the gap. And here he went over and he got Mick and he brought him over and he put the hand into the fertiliser bag and away to the county hospital like the hammers of hell. This actually happened to be up in the town land at Tully Yard. So he had to come down through Kirlish and out onto the Castlereagh Road and in through the town and out round the Crooked Bridge and down round through Gillygooley, in the Derry Road, out Campsie and up at the back of the county hospital. And this was the time that we did have a county hospital. Anyway, he landed in and he told the nurse the story, and my God, she says, you're well lucky the night, for Dr. Pinter's on work on the night himself. He's on duty. So when he brought Mick, and Pinto was no time till he came down and he showed him the story, and Pinto says, have you the hand, must ye? Aye, he says, I have, surely to God. And he says, bring him in here, he says, and put him up in that bed. And Paddy Francie turned round and he says, I suppose, he says, I could go on ahead home. No, Windy, Pinto says, you will not. He'll be ready in about half an hour. Paddy went out and he sat out in the waiting room, and by God, you know, true enough, within about half an hour he was out. And he came down there and out, and he had a bit of a bandage on the hand and that something and a kind of a sling. And he got out and he got into the van, and away the two of them went. Back down Campsie and out the Derry Road and through Gillygooley, out through the town, up through Kirlish and out to Tully Yard. Dropped him off at the house. Well, he never seen any more of him for the rest of that year. The following year he planted the corn again, and he started it, and the harvest came and it was going grand. He got himself a wee pony that year and a wee tilter. Now, if any of you knows what a tilter is, it's a thing that you pull out and you bring the corn in like that, and you sit in a wee seat and you manage like that. And he was going round the field, and by God, didn't you hear the gate rattle again? And who was it? Mick the Fiddler. And then Mick came and God, he says, what will I do with him? Where will I put him? And he put him up in the seat. Up, and there was a seat on the side of the wee tilter, and all he had to do was pull in the corn like that as it was going round the field. And they were getting on powerful well. But Lord, down about the bottom of the field where the corn was thick and heavy, did Mick reach out, and by God, didn't he fall? And the cutter came and it took the leg clean off him, just above the knee. Well, now, if it had been below the knee, it would have been a bit better, but it was above the knee. He had to stop again, and he run like the hammers of hell down, and he got the van and he came up, and by God, the fertiliser bag was still there from the year before. And he threw the leg into the fertiliser bag. And away he went, down through Kirlish, in out onto the Castlegate Road, through the town, round the Crooked Bridge, out through Gillygooley, in the Derry Road, out Campton, up to the county hospital. And by God, you wouldn't believe it, but the blessing of God was with him. For the nurse informed him that Mr. Pinto was on that night as well. Well, of course, Pinto came down and he looked at him and he says, have you the leg with you? He says, I have, it's in that fertiliser bag. Pinto looked at the bag and he got him up onto the chair anyway, and he looked. And he says, bring that bag over here. So of course Packy Francie did. And he says, sure, he says, there's no point in me waiting about here. I'll head home. No, he says, just hold on a minute. Go out there and sit for about 3/4 of an hour and he should have him with you. Out Packy went, and by God, you know, within 3/4 of an hour he was out. And got him into the van, but he was hustling now. He had a kind of a crutch and he got along, he managed the best. And by God, when he got out, he was able to get out on the crutch, you know, and he was able to get into the house like that the very best. But he wasn't here till after that. The following harvest came and Packy got the corn cut. He got a stick stacked it out into the haggard, and no word of Mick. The thresher landed, and they had just started the second stack, and the wee gate rattled, and in came Mick. And because he was walking rightly, to tell you the truth, and Packy looked at him and he says, where am I going to put him? By God, he says, sure, if I put him up on top of the thresher, he says, all he has to do is sit on a bag of straw and cut the straps and throw them in. But he did do so. So he was sitting there and the thing was going powerful well. They were cutting the straps, throwing them in, cutting the straps, and they had one stack left to thresh. And a bee flew into Mick's ear. And Mick got his finger in like that there, and he started, and he poked, and because as he did so, he fell down the big hole, and the bitters came round in the corn, and here did it catch Mick's head, and it took it clean off above the shoulders. And he says, Packy shouted, he says, quick, he says, would some of you go around quick there, and I'll go in and look to see if I can find the head, and some of you bring the van round, and I do believe there's a fertiliser bag behind the seat, bring it into me. And Mick, what did he do? He went in underneath looking for Mick. Packy went in underneath looking for Mick. And by God, he found a head. And he checked if it was Mick's head, and it was. So he got the head, and he put the head into the bag, into the van, down again through Kirlish, down out onto the Derg Road, through the town, over the Crooked Bridge, and out, up Campsie, into the hospital. And you'll not believe it. Who was on that night but Pinto himself? He looked at him and he says, have you the head with you? He says, I have. It's in that fertiliser bag. They're bound to be used looking at it be now. Pinto went over and he started to loosen the knot on the fertiliser bag. And he loosened away at the knot on it. And he got it open and he looked in. And he says, whoever tied the knot far too tight, and you have suffocated him. There's nothing I can do for you. Paddy didn't know what to do when he walked round the place. He says, Pinto says, well, he says, I'm sorry, my dear man, but it's up to you to tell the nearest relative. Well, Paddy started studying nearest relative. Oh, be God, that's right. He'd an old aunt lived out of a Gerva Hullion. And he says, I used to hear him chatting about her. God, he says, I'll call him the way home. So anyway, he got the head and the bag and he got Mick